You're watching HelloNation.
Well, we want to welcome you to the HelloNation podcast. We are your voices of good news. I'm your host, Leah Lando. Of course, it's always good news when you don't waste your hard-earned money. So we're working hard with the experts to try to make sure that you don't waste your money. And we are here now joined as part of our Hello Home Services series, locally and nationally recognized consumer protection expert, Mr. Warren Clark. We want to welcome you back to the show. We're so excited to have you, and we know you're a wealth of knowledge. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
And today we're gonna talk about windows and doors. But as you know, we like to begin each podcast, because we talk about good news, with some good news that you have. It can be anything. What good news can you share with us?
Well, it certainly can't be the Sabres, so I guess I'll say that the good news from a BBB standpoint is that more and more people are checking with us. We're trying to become reliant to a younger generation, and we're working hard in that direction. We have a new international organization, a new CEO, and there's just lots of really positive things. And that we're trying desperately also to adapt and help people with new technologies, artificial intelligence. We're beginning to use ourselves internally, and also trying to educate ourselves on how to help the public to spot things that are AI fake, and certainly a part of what together the BBB and HelloNation are trying to help people to understand how to get a good deal and not get taken.
AI. Wow. So you even have to worry about AI.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was at a meeting in Phoenix with all of my BBB CEO colleagues, and there was a presentation from a gentleman who was really an expert, and he laughs and says, "Don't call me that, because everything that you knew a week ago or a month ago is now different." But he is staying on top of it. We're actually working with him. I just had a meeting with him, and we're assuring our employees that we're not looking to replace anybody, that we're looking to be able to do more with what we have. Personally, I'm concerned about artificial intelligence, but I think we need to embrace it and understand it as well as one can, and make the best use of it.
Work with it, use it as a tool, right? So with
Exactly.
that, we're going to talk about, we want all of our listeners to know, if you are considering putting in new windows, new doors, there are just a number of things you have to consider. You don't want to make any hasty decisions. So Warren's going to talk us through some do's and don'ts. And I want to start, Warren, by talking about, what do you see the most often when it comes to hiring contractors? What kind of issues, problems do you hear about?
Well, for windows and doors, it's a little unique, because you're talking about people, businesses replacing something that's been in the home. So the idea of a proper fit, and when you're going to build a house. I suppose you're building the frame kind of around the window or door, but when it's there and you know that it's been sealed, but residences settle, and a fraction of an inch can make an enormous difference. So pretty much every job on windows and doors, to a great degree, is custom. Where the measurements have to be precise, whatever caulking and other things to make sure that the house is enclosed, are really critical. And that's so improper fit is certainly the number one issue that people have.
What do you think that homeowners, for the most part, tend to misunderstand about these types of?
They need to read their contract. They need to understand what they're going to pay and what they're going to get for what they pay. And probably one of the occasions where we wind up siding with a business, and we are a neutral third party. We are, even people that pay us don't get any preferential treatment when it comes to the complaint process. But that one of the times when we will wind up siding with the business is that the consumer didn't read their contract, didn't understand their contract. Maybe they read it and didn't understand it. And both of those things are really critical, because you need to know exactly what is going to be done for you, where they're going to be, what is the warranty. Here in New York, we're very fortunate because the laws may be a little cumbersome and may actually cost us some as these jobs get done. We use what we call conciliation. So a consumer will send a complaint to us. We redact it for personal identifiable information and vulgarity, and then we send it to the business, and they go back and forth. And again, whether the business is a paying member of ours or not, we treat them all the same way. We go back and forth until either the consumer is satisfied, or we believe the business made a good faith effort to satisfy them, met the terms of their contract. And as we all know, there are people you just can't please. So it's not a 100%, but certainly our efforts are the same. We in upstate New York, there are about 134,000 businesses. We have reports on over 70,000 of them. And again, whether or not they're members of ours, we have 7,500 paying members.
So you're right. We have to
Right.
really take our time, read the fine print, make sure they know what they're doing, because this door did have to be installed a different way because it wasn't just an average and standard size. So that's very good advice. I appreciate that. So based on the complaints that you've seen, where do things typically break down in window or door jobs?
Well, I think windows tend to be more difficult. We see more complaints on windows, and I think that's because, again, when buildings are made, they're already, a little different, and then you're probably not having the windows replaced by the people that built the original place, and even if you did, the original specs with settling are likely to be. It doesn't take much. A fraction of an inch can get air or moisture through. So it's really, I would say, again, kind of improper fit with windows is probably the biggest issue.
It's disheartening, but there are so many scams out there, and I'm sure that that's the case when it comes to these kind of projects. What are some of the biggest scams? What do people need to be looking for? How can they tell if it's a scam?
As an employee of the Better Business Bureau, I would say please check with us before you make this purchase. We have numerous records on window and door people throughout upstate New York, and our colleagues all across North America. And whether or not you choose an accredited member, make sure that you look at the back and forth in a complaint. We are here as a neutral third party, and when I say that that we treat the complaint process the same, we take that very seriously. Our resolution rate with our accredited members, people that are paying us, to whom we're important, is 99%.
Wow.
So the statistical significance of using a BBB member to do a job, we call them accredited businesses because we vet them first, and then that 1% that that I didn't say 100%, and that 1% usually almost, I guess, completely, if they didn't make a good effort to please, to do what they said they would do, we revoke their accreditation. We kick them out. And it doesn't matter how much they're paying us. We have kicked out, years ago, some of the highest payers that we've ever had. And it was because they stopped answering BBB complaints.
And doesn't that also include what we talked about in the past, making sure that you get how many quotes? How many contractors should you?
We recommend 3, more if you can, minimum of 2. So that here at BBB, we always get 3 quotes for any job that we do, because we're also using other people's money. We're using people that are paying us to do our work. And we are a business. We own a building. We've got a paving sealer coming in 2 weeks to fix our driveway. And these are all things that we practice what we preach.
So when I have these three quotes in front of me, what am I looking for? What are some of the things that I want to see?
Well, that's a great question. With Windows, they could say, that you don't need all those windows. You can start with just a couple, and you want to make sure that you've read the details of the contract. And if you don't understand it, ask somebody. Ask a third party. Ask someone. There are people that are just like a general contractor. Maybe you need to go elsewhere. I'm sure that there's help at trade schools, and check with us. My team of people that answer the phone are really great resources. And we also give them all of the resources for places to refer. So if it became a problem, from the U.S. Attorney to local police departments, et cetera. But I think the most critical thing, and the thing that gets most caught up for people, is to know the details, the time that it's going to take. If you're going to do windows and doors, and your home is going to be open.
That's a good point. Yeah.
What are they going to do? And have when they tell you 2 weeks, and it's 2.5 and 3, and you haven't heard from them. What's going on? There are supply chain issues in the marketplace today, but make sure that you're talking to people, that don't just let it slide.
So the contract should specify the time frame, right? When you can expect the project to be done.
Absolutely. It should be, we talked about the payments, a third. The contract should say, on Tuesday, we're going to open it up. If it's a 3-day job, when we go home Tuesday and Wednesday night, we're going to put this on over your windows. Maybe we can't temperature control, you may have to adjust for that. But yes, absolutely. You should know specifically, and some jobs, big jobs, maybe they can't be as specific, but just in general, if we have to leave, this is what we'll do.
Okay. So
if
all
we
those
can't complete
details.
it, or we have an issue.
This is all very good advice, especially when you're dealing with windows and doors. You got to have your door, so you don't want it off the front, right? Have you seen cases like that where contractors showed up and not completed the project, and there's been, essentially a hole somewhere,
Absolutely.
Wow.
We have a committee of the board called the Ethics and Standards Committee. They meet every month and deal with, first of all, they approve every application after our staff has done the vetting. And sometimes a board member will know something about a business that we didn't find. That's rare, but that does happen. But we get businesses that may be in the middle of a problem like that. So, somebody was told 6 weeks, and they're now at 7 weeks. Half their windows are in, half are not. And if we don't get a comfortable answer from the company, we will suspend their accreditation. So it comes up as kind of vanilla. It doesn't say that we've kicked them out, but it also doesn't say that they're now accredited. But the complaint information doesn't become live until it's closed. So we give the business and the consumer time to work these things out. But absolutely, it could be that it's a supply chain issue. I had a problem with my treadmill, and they were waiting for a board, but they told me, unfortunately, something like that, they couldn't give me a loaner. But the business should be going out of their way to try and take care of the consumer when something comes up that's out of their control. And that stuff happens. We see that all the time. And often during a suspension, when we send the company a letter saying you've been suspended, suddenly they say, gee, I know I could get that part down the street. It's going to cost me a little more, but maybe I ought to do it. And we see these complaints resolved because we've started an action, even when we give them the letter saying they've been expelled, they still have until the board actually meets. This is a committee of the board to go to vote the expulsion or the revocation. That we get people that call and say, we had a very large chain of convenience stores that wanted to become members, and they had like 60 complaints over the 3 years we record them. And what they realized was they'd hired somebody in about a 6-month period that didn't know who we were and didn't respond. And they had a D rating with us, and they had gotten rid of that person but hadn't known to fix the problem. So and it took them another 6 months. They fixed all the problems and they joined. But that's we what our goal is to have the complaint resolved, and whatever that takes within our capability. Something goes to court, we're out. So as soon as one of them hires a lawyer, we take ourselves out of the process.
We've covered a lot of ground here, but is there any big take-home message that you have for our listeners? Anything you say you go to bed at night thinking about what you do and how you're hoping to help people? Like, is there anything you want to make sure that they know about hiring a window and door contractor?
Well, again, a little redundancy that we vet advertising claims. We look at past history. If somebody winds up changing, they change the name of their company. When we get the principal, we make that connection, and we will make them adhere to their history. Or if they won't do that, we report that to the public. I would say to the public, please check with us before you buy. Cost you nothing. All of our services to the public are free, and actually look at the information, read it. If you have trouble understanding it, call us. We have a toll-free number anywhere in Upstate, and actually anywhere in the country can call us toll-free. And about half of the complaints against businesses in Upstate New York actually come from outside of New York State.
Oh.
But look at the rating. If they're not A or A plus, they may just be too new. If someone's very new, they can't get an A plus. But look at the rating, look at the complaints, and if they need to be licensed, make sure they have license and insurance.
Why do they come from outside of New York? How does that?
Well, you could have, not for windows and doors, but there are mail order houses in New York, people that sell products, and there, I think there's a pool supplier someplace here in the Buffalo Niagara area that was selling all over the country, and they were promising a certain delivery. They were slow, and ultimately, I don't honestly remember whether they closed or whether they fixed it, but we've not heard about them for a while.
Gotcha. Tim has a question. Go ahead, Tim.
I have a lot, but I control myself. You said it could be that they're not an A plus because they haven't been a business long enough. What is your criteria for that? I know that we talk about, personally, I think it takes 5 to 7, give or take, for a business to be considered an expert. So how long does that take for a business to be A plus eligible?
I think it's 2 or 3 years. It's a whole algorithm, and that's just one piece of it. But years ago, now maybe 6 or 8 years ago, it used to be that a business had to be in business a year to even be considered for accreditation. And the BBBs cumulatively fought to have it reduced to 6 months. I was not on the side of reducing it. But we are also one of the more successful BBBs at attracting new accredited members, and people thought that would be easier. So, I think that time in business is critical. If you look at the national statistics, something like 50% of businesses don't make 2 or 3 years. And you could have someone who's very good at what they do, but they're a lousy business person. So and that will certainly affect them. Or they may be a very good business person that decided they wanted to be a window and door person. And by the way, you look at kitchen and bath. Suddenly, kitchen and bath people are becoming windows and doors. Window and door people are starting to do baths and roofs. And that's not to say that they're bad, but you want to look at the specific history.
Do you think it's easier? Because again, I know the BBB cares. Do you think it's easier for the BBB to help a business be? I mean, I think I know the answer, but for a good window and door person to become a good business owner, or do you think it's easier for a good business owner to become a good window and door contractor? Do you know the question I'm asking here?
Yeah, I do, and I'm not sure that I can give you a clear answer. If you're not good at something, you need to make sure you got somebody who is. I'm good at some things, and those are the things I try to do. I don't tinker with stuff around the house. My wife may try some of the stuff, but I think to myself, I'm gonna blow out the electrical box, or I'm gonna break the window if I try to take it out. So I think you probably need to have people that are good at both. There are wonderful window and door people that I know are now doing whole renovations. We had our work done here. We kind of built a conference room out of an area, and they did a beautiful job, and they did it fair, and they did it quickly. We had all the quotes. And it wasn't, there's no place on their website that says they do what they did but I think my recommendation is just do as much homework as you can. Don't spend your hard-earned money just kind of flitting through data and picking somebody.
Costing you more if you make a big mistake, too. Warren, thank you so much. Are you guys ready for the hello goodbye game?
I'm ready.
For our listeners, if you're just tuning in, you haven't heard this game before, here's how it works. So I'm going to ask Warren a series of questions. He's going to say hello if it's true, goodbye if it's not. When it comes to a window and door contractor, they focus heavily on the product but avoid talking about installation.
Goodbye. The products, I like to say that if it was easy, I'd do it myself. You can buy a product, you can buy a window, you can buy a door, and the installation is critical. Especially exterior. We haven't really talked about inside from outside, but there's just so much involved, and the installation is critical, because it could be a perfect window and it's 6 inches too small for the opening. It's
Right.
just not going to keep you warm and dry.
Right, like the storm door I was going to order. Someone had
Right.
to build framing around it. They had to install it. Is there anything that quickly you want to point out about inside versus outside? Is there anything people need to know?
No, inside is generally easier because it doesn't affect the weather doesn't affect you while it's being fixed. No, the same rules, pretty much would apply to either.
Gotcha. All right, so let's do this next question is hello or goodbye. They measure carefully and explain the installation project.
Hello.
Process.
Absolutely. And that should be an expectation. That's what you pay your good money for, and that's what you expect.
Excellent. And the final question, they offer a today-only discount if you sign immediately. Sign right now.
We caution so much about, the pressure, and, we talked about age before, someone that is used to, assuming that what the person is telling them is honest and true. But anybody who would say, you may see a national ad and it says the price is good till X time. And honestly, I would expect if you're if they're at your house that day and won't give you 72 hours to think it over, I would question it.
But hopefully, with all of your help, all of your advice, we can kind of stop people from trying to scam people and let them, do their research and avoid any major issues. Warren, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm enjoying this and hope that this will help us get the word out. We're so happy with HelloNation giving the opportunity to reach more people with the advice that we give every day.
Thank you. So, yeah, and listeners, please share this advice because a lot of people may not know about all of these things that you have to go through before you make a wise choice. We appreciate all of you listening as well. I'm Leah Lando signing off with Warren Clark, the rest of us here at HelloNation, where good news travels fast. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you back here soon.
Thanks for watching HelloNation.